What up, watch peeps? I get excited about Seiko releases. I really do. And they have been at it again with some killer stuff. The new field watch, which is incredible. I have one of those here. I'll be reviewing that soon. But there is another totally new design, which is a complete home run. The 38.5mm Prospex Solar Diver. I have the Patty version here too, so let's get into it. I'm Pete, and we are Chillin' with Watches. Wrist check. I'm wearing my Alpinist today on this watch gecko president style bracelet. The end links, I don't know if they're made for the Alpinist, but they fit it perfectly. But let's get into this Seiko we have here today. It's your standard white Seiko box outer sleeve. Look at that bad boy. Now, before we get too much into it, size-wise, these only come in the one size. It's a 38.5mm of goodness. Colors, there's an all black kind of standard version. Then you have this Patty version here. Price, they retail for $4.95, but you can get them at Mimo's for $3.70 using his code. Tell him Pete sent you. I'll have no idea what that means, but it'll be funny. All right, first thing that jumps out at you on this one is that this case is an absolute dream. It's thin, it's a great size, it's comfortable. The proportions of, well, everything are tuned into one another for a really cohesive package. It's Seiko. They do cases like no one else. The next thing you notice on this particular model is that dial. It's got that latitude, longitude, aquanaut kind of design to it. When the light hits it just right, it is gorgeous. So let's start out with the hands. They're very Seiko, kind of like a modern take on an SKX. Dial layout is very traditional, almost Submariner-like. It's got a white date window, which, you know, I can read way easier than a white date wheel, which I can read way easier than a black date wheel. And since it kind of matches up with the marker at 9 o'clock, I think that is fantastic. Now this one has a sapphire crystal on it. It's just a flat sapphire crystal, but that is very nice. And it has a ceramic bezel insert as well. Let me see if I can get the light to hit that just right. Can you see? It's one of the coolest ceramic bezel inserts I've ever seen. It's almost grooved, kind of like they did when they redid the Samurai. Very cool. There you can see it kind of good. Really cool effect. Very nice bezel insert. Great use of color, tying the hands to the bezel. And the bezel itself is awesome. It's a very aggressive, pointy teeth, easy to use grip, but the action is incredible. It has that kind of Seiko rubber gasket slickness to it, but listen to how ratchety it is. Very clicky. The alignment, it's not perfect, but it is pretty darn good. Now this case has a great profile. Nice sweeping curve, no case back droop, and check out these chamfers. Now these aren't just polished. If you look closely, they are milled. They're actually textured. They are actually grooved out. Really cool, really well done. They have just the right size crown guards on this case, which I'm a fan of crown guards and I think they work really well here. Has a screw down crown. Again, great grip on that. Real easy to use for the couple times you're going to have to use it. Now, I even like the bracelet on this one. It has these kind of polished lines on the edges of the center links there, but you see these sometimes on like some of the higher end Tunas or even Grand Seikos, but they match up with these chamfers on the edges of the case. Again, just bringing together that really killer cohesive look. Now, they do just have hollow end links on this guy and just a basic pressed clasp. It is that standard kind of Prospex diver's extension clasp you see all the time. I have no problem with either of these things, but you know, if you do, you should know about them. No Timegrapher on this one today, as it is a solar quartz movement, but we can get into going over some of the specs. Going over the dimensions, we are looking at a 38.5mm case. Now it's 38.5mm at the bezel, but the case matches up with that as well, as you can see here. We are looking at a 46.4mm lug to lug, and it is only 11.1mm thick. Super comfortable to wear. 20mm lug, so all your straps will work. Going over some of the other specs, we are looking at a flat sapphire crystal, Seiko Lume Bright for the Lume. Uses a Seiko V147 solar movement, and it is a pro spec, so of course it features 200 meters of water resistance. And on this bracelet size for my 7¼ inch wrist, it came in at 140 grams. I don't know if I mentioned before, but not only do you have the polished kind of groove chamfers on the outside, you have these very small polished chamfers on the inside of the lugs. And then when you combine that with these polished stripes around the outsides of the center links, just a really cool look overall. Let's take a look at it on wrist. And here's how it wears on my 7¼ inch wrist that it apparently never wants to leave. Here you can see how thin it is. Just a really great, comfortable wear. I know some of you are thinking 38.5, that's too small for me, and maybe it is for some of you, but I think for some of you who think it's too small, you might find that it's probably not. Just a great wear, really awesome watch. Let's take a look at it side by side, some other watches. So here again, I'm going to use my Woolbrook as a reference because I think it's a very true to size 40mm diver. It does have a larger dial opening and a thinner bezel, which kind of exaggerates that larger size difference over the patty here. Both quite thin in different ways. Next I don't have that many small divers, so I grabbed this is an Invicta Pro Diver mod, again, 40mm. This one, smaller dial opening, same Seiko size dial actually, with a bezel that's more in proportion. I think you can see here that, 35, it's pretty close to this. Now it's going to be much thinner. I have a crazy dome acrylic on there. But yeah, I mean, look at that. That's a 40mm watch, and it wears pretty similarly, I think. Let's take a look at it next to an SKX. The ever faithful benchmark, and these are 42 and a little over. Same size dial, kind of same size bezel, and you can see it's smaller, but not tremendously so. It's going to be a much thinner watch and much more comfortable wear, but as you can see, it's not terribly smaller than an SKX. Lastly, let's take a look at that Lume Bright.
Keep the Lume.
It's Seiko Lume Bright, so there you go. It's always pretty good, pretty bright, long lasting. You're never gonna have any complaints about Seiko Lume Bright Lume. So there you guys go, the Seiko Patty Solar Diver. In case you guys couldn't tell, I freaking love this watch. So much so that I'm willing to declare it a keeper right here and now. Those of you who know me know that is a bold statement. All right, before I let you go, sneaker check. I'm wearing my green check Vans because I love how wacky they are. And that's it, I'm out. If it's not too much trouble, please like, subscribe, and come back next time. Peace.